Today we're talking Lake Hartwell, and I want to know how to fish it properly. I've got NPFL Pro Rob Wroblewski in the house, and he's going to show me the baits and the tactics and the places to look for to put fish in the boat. All right, Rob, Lake Hartwell. Don't know a lot about it. For those of us that might be going up there, what's the best way to fish Lake Hartwell properly?
Well, there's two different guys that fish Lake Hartwell. There's the guys that like offshore and the guys that fish shallow.
Mm-hmm.
I've been told many times by a lot of avid fishermen and professionals that fish Lake Hartwell that fishing shallow all year long is probably the key to being successful on Lake Hartwell.
Going shallow.
Going shallow, yes, and especially like this time of the year in March, you're getting ready to that early spawn.
Yeah.
Fish are getting ready to move up and stuff. So kind of like what we talked about earlier about bait presentation, usually throwing a big bait like a mag draft or like a 6 cent swim bait hangover. If you want to target certain spots like in the back of the ditches and stuff like that, because fish are getting ready to move up. So when you get a lot of rainfall this time of the year and that water in those back creeks, those filter creeks, a lot of the time those bass will move up in those back of those ditches and sit there and wait for stuff to feed out.
Now, are we talking about largemouth or are we talking about spots or both?
Well, spots will move up shallow.
Right.
I mean,
and Hartwell has both.
Hartwell does have both.
Okay. Right.
But in order to win an event there, you gotta have a really good mixed bag or a bag of just largemouth.
So the largemouth carries the weight there, as opposed to like lakes around here like Lanier and Notley, where you can get, massive size spots. So
so Lanier, obviously, that's just more of a spot lake.
Yeah.
So if you catch a big 5 limit spots, you're gonna have a better chance of having a mixed bag.
But that won't work as well on Hartwell.
Not necessarily. There is big spots in Hartwell. They do the same thing kind of in a sense in Lanier.
Yeah.
But your go-to thing is going to be catching largemouth in shallow water.
Okay, so what kind of bait fish are present on Lake Hartwell?
So you're going to get it's a little bit too early to get ready for that herring spawn.
That does have herring.
But they do have herring in it. Yes, it is a herring lake.
Okay.
The gizzard shads are really common in there.
Right.
They do move up shallow, usually in the early times of the spring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of those big fish move up shallow and try to chase those gizzard shads.
All right, so let's split that up between the two species of fish. If I'm going up there and targeting spots, what's the best way to catch spotted bass on Lake Hartwell?
Best way to catch spotted bass is you're going to be up the front of docks. Usually any creek like the Tougaloo River, the Seneca River, or any big creeks that go into from the main lake. The first ditch or the first couple ditches into that creek, the first 4 docks going into there, I know there's a lot to say, usually will hold the bigger number of fish.
Okay.
And again, it's all about high percentage. So you're trying to look for those high percentage spots.
Right.
And those are the spots that I would locate.
Does Hartwell have anything like rocky points similar to what we see here in North Georgia?
Yeah, so like when you see a lot of points are clay points.
Okay.
But here's the catch. You can catch fish off clay points, but your higher percentage fish are going to be off rocky points.
Off the rocky points.
Yes,
okay.
They got to have something to hold themselves to.
Okay, so what's the best bait for a spotted bass on Hartwell?
A jerkbait, a Kitech, those two baits, a fluke.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong with the fluke.
Right.
Yes.
I've heard that. Now let's switch over to the largemouth. I'm wanting to go catch a trophy largemouth or a good bag of largemouth on Hartwell. What are the baits? Where am I looking?
The jackhammer.
Yeah.
It's always my go-to bait. A swim bait as well, a big old swim bait. I like to throw, this time of the year, I like to throw a big jig or a jig, a half ounce or 3/8 True Grit jig with the pair up with the bruiser bait crawdad. Again, throwing it at the back of the docks. Fish are getting ready to move up. Usually the docks that you want to find are the ones that have sunlight penetrating to it.
Gotcha.
The majority of the day, not half of the day, the majority of the day, because that's where the water warms up the quickest.
And then going into the summertime, I guess you can find those typical summer patterns for bass, deep and shallow.
Yeah, I mean, fish will, the post spawn, they'll move up, move deep again into brush piles. I still am a firm believer that the fish will cruise around shallow. They'll go underneath docks. That's where the wacky rig comes in handy.
Oh,
you love throwing the wacky rig.
I do.
So that's always a plus.
Yeah.
On skipping docks, doing that kind of thing. You can still catch them with the jig. You can catch them, obviously, with the mag draft, a swim bait. And I like to throw glide baits.
Okay.
A lot, especially in Hartwell, especially right after that post spawn. Even during the spawn, I feel like you can get the bigger bass to trigger off a bed throwing a bigger glide bait or mag draft than throwing a white speed craw or
in the bed itself,
or a white fluke,
Yeah.
or a jig,
Okay.
bigger presentations get those bass really, really interested in seeing what that is, and then you can kind of figure out their behavior from there.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, I want to make sure as we wrap this up, what I'm hearing is spotted bass, you're looking more, the points, first few docks going into the creek and the ditches.
Yes.
And then they'll go into their summertime haunts. Some will be shallow, some will be deep, and you can do the offshore game if you want to do that. Largemouth bass, shallow year-round if you want, pretty much on Hartwell.
Pretty much. I mean, you'll see them all year long shallow.
Okay.
Yeah, and even the big girls will stay underneath those docks shallow.
Okay, and the number one bait of all the baits you mentioned, if you had to go up there to catch one big bag and you only had one bait, what's the best bait for Hartwell year-round?
I would say a fluke.
A fluke.
Yes.
Any particular color?
White,
Okay,
Arkansas shiner,
okay,
a blue black herring color.
yeah.
That's it.
All right, so I feel like I could take those baits up right now, could go up there, and I could be successful, starting from the spring all the way through the winter.
Yes, sir.
That'll work, guys. Hey, all right, Rob, dude, I appreciate you spending a little time with me and, telling me a little bit about Hartwell so that I can go up there and have some success. I'm going to try that fluke. I'm going to try that fluke right there. So, guys, hey, if you like this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you join our channel. Click that notification bell so you'll get more future content.